Welcome to the STEM Sessions podcast. I am your host, Cody Colborn. It's been a busy few months for me. I've had some ongoing personal events that required my attention, and I had several pre-scheduled commitments I couldn't ignore, or at least I would have felt really bad if I had skipped them. I judged in 3 science fairs during March, April, and May, each taking about 20 hours of my time. And in June, I volunteered at a fair of another type, this one spelled with an E at the end of it, a Renaissance Fair. Earlier in the year, I joined the Guild of Science and Arts at the Koroneburg Ren Fest. Truthfully, I really don't know what spurred me to join. I enjoy attending Ren fairs, like the shopping, taking in the shows and the people watching, and also attempting to plant the seeds of rebellion against whichever monarch controls the town. But I don't really LARP. I don't perform historical reenactments, and I don't particularly like dressing in period clothing, but something about this guild just captured my interest. Sharing science and technology of the Renaissance period just seemed fun, and it would be a new experience for me, so I wanted to give it a try. I ended up having a really good time, and I wanted to share some of the highlights with you now. This is the STEM Sessions Podcast, episode 28, Science in Koroneburg. In the real world of 2024, Koroneburg is a village of permanent structures located in a park surrounding the Santa Ana River in Riverside County. There are stages, a jousting arena, restaurants, and shops. The site is used for other events throughout the year, such as Halloween events, weddings, and parties. And while the structures are in various states of disrepair, it's the only permanent Ren Fair village in California. Now, in kayfabe, Koroneburg sits along the Rhine River in late 16th century Germany. The leader of Koroneburg is Baron Heinrich von Laufer. He was made Baron by the Emperor in recognition of making the best beer in all the land. And every June, the Baron hosts a grand festival and invites dignitaries, regular folk, and guilds from across Europe and the world to join in the celebration. One of those guilds is my guild, the Guild of Science and Arts. While attending the festival, we stay at the Inn of St. Ambrose, and throughout the day, visitors can join us on the porch for refreshments or in the garden for games of the period. And while there, they can learn from poets, writers, musicians, inventors, mathematicians, and natural philosophers, aka scientists. They can also witness demonstrations of our mighty trebuchet. Now, setting kayfabe aside, the mission of the Guild of Science and Arts is to teach visitors about the science and arts of the Renaissance period. And how guild members go about doing that is really up to the individual. Some members assume the role of famous names from the period, such as Leonardo da Vinci or Galileo, or even Thomas Paine, exiled from England and in hiding as the peasant poet. Others invent their own characters, much like one would for a role-playing game. I developed a character of a traveling scientist who works with the famous names but is not one himself. That gave me the flexibility to talk about any topic I wanted. My character gives mini lectures in all the villages he visits, sharing his knowledge freely. I wrote an entire character sheet, but that's the elevator pitch. Then I had to work out my costume. Now, normally I attend Ren fairs as a Viking. I get to show off my tattoos, braid and bead my hair, and walk around greeting people in the few Old Norse words I've managed to memorize. But the Viking culture is not really known for their scholars and are about 5 or 6 centuries too early for the scientific revolution of the Renaissance. So, not really knowing what to do, I opted for a more generic adventurer costume of boots, pants, leg wraps, a vest, and a Tudor-style hat. But I did take time to emphasize features like pouches, belts, and satchels for carrying documents and notebooks and scientific instruments. Luckily for me, one of the weekend themes was Viking and Celtic, so I was able to dress full Viking mode for the 2 days. Now, my non-Viking costume wasn't perfect, and it certainly wasn't anything special, but it got the job done. Because remember, I had really no idea what I was doing. I was winging the costume, and I was winging how I would interact with the visitors, too. I prepared lectures on 3 topics. 1 was the invention and development of the pencil. 2, the origin of the scientific method. And 3, the physics of the trebuchet. To get kids more interested, I offered a prize at the end, a small notebook and a ballpoint feather pen. The notebook was branded as an official guild field journal so they could record all of their scientific observations and artistic ideas during their visit to Koroneburg. I don't recall exactly what I was expecting, at least not in terms I can relay without a lot of hand waving and rambling, but I'm very certain the vast majority of those predictions were incorrect. Our courtyard had tables and chairs with numerous Renaissance-era games set up which lured the people in. Well, that and our copious amounts of shade, which was actually our most valuable asset. I would explain the rules of the game they wanted to try, and then after they were done playing and were getting up to leave, I'd hit them with my pitch. As we are the Guild of Science and Arts, I would say, would you like to listen to a quick science lecture before you leave our shade and continue your journey? I then let them pick the topic. Each was selected at least a few times throughout the fair, but the most popular was definitely the pencil lecture. Perhaps it seemed the most fun or maybe the least intimidating, and that's something I need to work on for next year. The lectures were fully scripted and placed in a leather-bound notebook, and it was intended to give the appearance that I had collected this knowledge on my travels and was referring to my notes as I spoke. But I quickly realized the script really only worked for adults. Teenagers and kids just didn't respond well to it, so I changed it up depending on the audience. Every time I gave a lecture, it was different, but by the final weekend, I think I had it dialed in. Adults can be entertained by a well-written lecture, breaking in with questions when appropriate. Teenagers and certainly young kids, on the other hand, have a shorter attention span, something I should have anticipated from the beginning, but I didn't, and therefore they require more engagement. So that shorter attention span also meant I needed to get to the point more quickly, so less color and less historical build-up in my lecture. I also discovered that really young kids, younger than 8 or 9, respond very positively to show and tell and other tangible demonstrations. For that matter, all ages actually responded to it. I also noted a lot more engagement from kids when I kneeled next to them, so our heights were more closely matched. In fact, judging by the smiles on their parents' faces and the number of times I was recorded on their phones in those situations, I think the parents really appreciated someone talking with their kids in that manner as well. Outside of interacting with our visitors, here are some random highlights from my month at the Koroneburg Ren Fest. 1. Experiencing the entirety of early summer Southern California weather in a single day. Now, most people assume Southern California in the summer is always sunshine with temperatures constantly in the 70s and 80s. They don't realize how quickly the temperature drops when the sun goes down and that ocean breeze rolls in. You see this at Disneyland all the time. Out-of-town visitors walking around the park wrapped up in towels from their hotel because they forgot to pack a jacket on their summer vacation to Southern California. And for several days at Koroneburg, we started with the cool temperatures of June gloom, our affectionate name for the marine layer that sticks around most of the day. It's also called Grapel, May Gray, No Sky July, or Fogust, depending on the month it occurs in. Now, those clouds would burn off around 1 or 1:30, and the temperature shot into the 80s. But then around 4 or 5, the sun was low enough in the sky to allow the marine layer to return, along with that cool ocean breeze, leaving everyone who was already soaked in sweat chilled. Now, the second highlight was handing a feather pen to this 5-year-old boy after listening to my pencil lecture, and seeing the giddy devilishness on his face as he whispered to me, "I'm going to tickle everyone with this." Honestly, that just made my day. It's something I will definitely never ever forget. Highlight number 3 was running into a couple of my current favorite content creators. Joseph Hansen, who plays the Colonel in Fast Food House, and Michael McRae, who plays Jack in the Box. These guys were just chilling, totally out of character. They weren't filming, but I still had to go up and thank them for all of the hours of entertainment they've given me the last couple of months. Now, I really strive to be like the Colonel when I become an old man, but Jack will always be my spirit animal. Highlight the 4th was watching the birds of prey and their handlers from Falcon's Court on their walk to their stage. As they were coming down the road at just the right moment, a light headwind kicked up and the hawks spread their wings as if they were flying. It was just an awesome moment in time to witness. Now, I didn't attend any of the participant after parties or camp on site, but I still had a blast. It scratched that itch to teach and perform creatively without the obligation of being a full-time teacher or a touring artist. And I'm already working on improvements for next year. I mean, I'm that excited about it. And hopefully there is a next year, because 2024 was the last year of Koroneburg's current lease. Negotiations on a new one are ongoing and are happening in good faith, but the rumors and predictions are trending neither positively or negatively, so none of us really know what's going on. However, I'm definitely hoping for the best. Thank you for listening to this episode of the STEM Sessions podcast. It was researched, written, and produced by Cody Colborn. Show notes can be found at thestemsessions.com, and feedback and corrections are always welcome. If you received value from this episode and wish to give some back, please visit thestemsessions.com/value for value for ways to support the podcast. And please remember, STEM belongs to everyone. We should not allow it to be siloed or gatekept by experts, policymakers, or talking heads. Bias is found in every message, so always verify what you read and what you're told. Until the next episode, stay curious.